No, no, no. Don't do it.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video with Merlin, a 4-year-old Devil's Garden Wild Mustang that I've been gentling.
Oh my gosh, this is so stressful to watch.
I'm now introducing Merlin to electric fencing for the first time.
Oh no!
When I put the Mustangs out in electric for the first time, I usually stay and wait for them to get zapped 1 or 2 times. Merlin's already had his first zap here, and you can see that he's already starting to recognize that the fence is hot and that he'll get zapped if he touches it. All of my gentled Mustangs have picked up on electric fencing really quickly, and it's typically only taken a zap or 2 for them to understand the boundary. Soon after he was out in the electric fence, we introduced tying, and Merlin did so well at this. This is his very first time tying, and right away he seemed to understand the general concept. Here he's putting a little pressure backwards, and he finds his own release by stepping forward. Just like with Jaeger, I'm using a blocker tie ring, and if you want to know more about that, go check out Jaeger's video. In short, this is the tie ring that I use all the time and to teach my Mustangs how to tie. It provides a release if there was an emergency situation or if the horse pulled back hard enough. Merlin figured out the concept of tying really quickly. You can see him stepping forward here to get his own release. He's pretty content just standing around. Okay, I just have to take a moment and talk about how beautiful his coat is. Just look at him. He is so gorgeous. And if we take a closer look at his coat, there's really a mixture of all these different types of colors of hairs, and they just make up this beautiful coat. I love it. I especially love his dark legs and light colored tail, and he has somewhat of a dorsal stripe down his back, which I really love dorsal stripes. Also in Merlin's latest achievements is being brushed by someone else other than me. Although Merlin has a really calm and quiet disposition, he's really somewhat of an old soul. He also has a lot of nervousness and anxiety around new situations and new people. As with any wild horse, I think it's really important to be able to separate the wild or the lack of training from their temperament or their personality.
So he's really interesting. He's very expressive with his breath. I don't know if you just heard him there. He just started breathing really fast. But he will hold his breath or breathe rapidly.
One thing that Merlin has taught me is how to tune into a horse's breath. This is something that I honestly have not paid a lot of attention to in the past, but because Merlin is so expressive in this way, it really helps me to take note of this, not only with him, but with other horses as well. Paying attention to Merlin's breathing really gives me some strong signs of when he's starting to get anxious. I tend to focus on getting a lot of visual cues from the horse, but listening for their breathing is now something that I'm adding to my list of things to pay attention to. Of course, you can be watching their belly and nostrils, but the breathing is an audible cue that can be really helpful. Working with these Mustangs is definitely a two-way street. I need to be able to know how to communicate with them, but I also need to be listening for what they're communicating with me. Another thing that Merlin has achieved is wearing the surcingle for the first time. I got this surcingle at a 4-H tax sale for a couple of dollars. Now, moments prior to this, I had done some desensitizing with a towel, so I knew he was already in a good headspace, and we're really just taking it up a notch at this point. I never just go out and try something new. I always work up to it, and the new things we do are really just building on what we've already worked on in former days and earlier in the session. You can see that he's a little bit nervous as we're doing this for the first time. To avoid getting my head down too low underneath him as I reach for the girth, I use my stick to bring it up to my hand, and then cinch it up. I of course made sure that he was comfortable with things touching his belly before I tightened the girth. That is a very important step. Even so, I was surprised by his lack of response to me tightening the girth. I also tightened it from the other side to make sure it was snug on him. He was a little bit nervous. You can see him really hesitating to move forward at first. This is a tiny example of what I mean by him being anxious and a little bit nervous around learning new things. He's not a very confident horse at first, but once he figures it out, he's pretty good. It was really just that first lap that he had some hesitation, but then he was pretty willing to move forward. One of the next things I hope to focus more on is picking up his feet. The poor guy's hooves are so long and could really use a trim. I have to say that Merlin is really learning in a different order than the other Mustangs. He's doing really well in some areas, but he's a little bit behind on picking up the feet. So it's really something I hope we can dedicate ourselves to in the near future. Okay, so quiz time. What do you think I'm about to do next? If you guessed put it on again, you are correct. If we ever put on a piece of equipment, I always try to put it on at least a second time before finishing the session. This time I felt comfortable reaching underneath to grab the girth. All right, well that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.